Hello everyone and welcome to the Rural Banter. Today we're going to take a walk around the farm and talk about what got me here. I just came outside after work and so the dogs are wanting to play, so I won't make this too long. So I've been here for about 18 years. I have about 100 acres and previously, it was rented out by my neighbors. I was never going to be a farmer, but I just did not like living in the city. So I wanted some area where I could do whatever I wanted without being bothered too much. So we moved out here, and about 10 years ago, we went through a major flood event, and so the land was not workable for quite some time. About 4 years ago, it started to actually get pretty dry. So the land was actually workable again, but because of the flood, the ground was pretty much ruined as far as grain farming goes because it created so much alkali. It raised so much up from below the earth. So been kind of waiting for the dirt to heal itself. I've been trying to work it a bit to try and help that process along, and also trying to find different ways that I can use the land without investing in millions of dollars of equipment. It's not a lot of land. It's not a lot to live off of. I have a full-time job outside of the farm, so it doesn't really warrant spending $750,000 on a large tractor. So I only have a small tractor, a small compact one. So I've been trying to diversify with things like starting an orchard, starting a wildflower patch, and just planting a lot of trees to try and take up the ground. Hopefully I can heal the majority of it, and then I can start renting it back out again so that it can be useful for things like growing barley or peas or anything like that. But until then, because it's quite a bit to mow with my little tractor, and we don't want the weeds getting too out of control, although you will see that they are pretty pervasive on the land that I'm not using. Hopefully sometime it will be back to what it's supposed to be used for. So this is the north part. I'll just flip you around here. So this is my yard site, and then the road, and this is my north land. So over here I've been trying the wildflowers, but they are growing, but it's super slow. They're probably all asleep by now because we're heading into fall here, and there'll be snow on the ground in no time. On the far end, I have planted a row of caragana trees just to try and get some wind block and some snow block for in the winter. But right now it pretty much just looks like a bunch of weeds. On the west end is where I've started the orchard. So if we walk over this way, I also have a large patch of trees. So we've got some lilacs starting over here, and lots of willow because it likes to spread. So I've got willow all spread out in here. These are more lilacs. And then over here I've got the orchard started. So I've started with apples, Haskap, raspberry, blueberry, Saskatoons, and sour cherries, regular cherries, and crab apples. So these are blueberries planted in here. In the yard site, I also started some strawberries. This is a little Haskap tree growing. So I started the orchard small that Haskaps and some of the apple trees and the plum trees I started 2 years ago, so they've been growing for a little bit. So things like this guy, he's a little bit taller, but still going to be a couple years producing fruits. This is a plum tree. And then this year I planted probably about 60 fruit trees. So that's the raspberries and the sour cherries, blueberries, and I know I'm missing a bunch. So those did really well this year. The deer pretty much left them alone. One of the big problems that I'm facing in the field planting trees is that the deer like to come around and snack on them because they make for delicious snacks. And I know that once they actually start producing berries, it's going to be a problem with the birds because I do have a lot of birds here. But I'd rather have birds eating the berries than having to deal with all of the weeds. Another thing that I have done in the field is plant micro clover and also just regular white clover to try and take over some of the stuff. But it kind of works and it kind of doesn't. I don't know if it's worth keeping on and planting that. I have been planting a lot of grasses, different grasses that are supposed to, like reclamation grass. It's supposed to help clear the alkali out of the dirt. But that's also slow growing, but it is growing. A big problem is the foxtail. If I flip you around, you can see I've got quite a bit of it growing. So that's kind of the main battle right now, is trying to fight the foxtail. So these guys were 2 years ago. It's going to be an elm tree, and they seem to be growing really well. I do have a row of evergreens there. They are pretty sad looking. And then I also planted another row of lilacs. Around the yard site is a whole thing of lilacs. They got hurt pretty bad in the flood. A lot of them died. Everyone says that you can't kill lilacs, but you definitely can. It's kind of hard to tell right now because it is fall, so things have mostly lost their leaves anyway. But the rows of lilacs are a combination of live trees that have no leaves and also dead trees from the flooding. And then this area all over here is the majority of the land that is not being used. I've got a dugout kind of way over in the corner here, and then just a lot of weeds. I've basically been mowing it every year, just trying to get the greenery back into the soil to help it heal. I do have some reclamation grass planted over here too that's slowly helping. So we're just taking it a little bit at a time. I'm not a farmer. I don't know. Well, I know more now than I ever did before. And I'm just trying to learn every year, trying to make little baby steps at making this work, fixing things up, hopefully helping the land, giving back to the environment a little bit with planting a bunch of trees and being a little more self-sustainable, planting fruit trees that I can use. Maybe I can start a U-pick in like 5 to 10 years when they actually start growing and giving me fruit. But I don't know. We'll see. So if we look here, this is lilac. So very clearly, some of it dead. Very clearly, some of it alive. Slowly, I've been working around the yard, trying to get in and cut out all of the dead stuff, but lilacs are so intertwined, it just takes forever. And I don't know if it would be worth having somebody come in and just cut the whole row down, but then my yard would be short of a lot of protection for the 3 years or whatever it would take for that to grow back. So I'm kind of leaning away from that, even if it would help clear out the dead stuff. Having the dead stuff mixed in is kind of better to keep the yard protected than having it all gone at once. So I think we'll just leave it that way for now. It hasn't been really a problem. The new stuff has just been kind of growing up through it anyway. So I think we'll just see how it goes. It's not like it's in a big rush or anything. I don't really care. It just looks kind of ugly. But whatever. I'm out in the middle of nowhere, so if the neighbors have nothing else to complain about than what my lilac rows look like, then I think that they're doing pretty good in their life. So if we head over to the south part of my yard site, this is where I've been starting a garden. I haven't really had a garden. I had one before the flood, but then the flood kind of wiped it all out. So then I thought, well, I had not really a lot of space to have one because everything was underwater. I did some container gardening, which produced a small amount, mostly herbs and stuff. But now that it's dry, I've kind of been trying to start gardening again. But I work a full-time job. I've got 2 dogs. I like to travel around, trying to get the orchard going and everything. So I'm pretty busy. So I'm trying to do like a really low maintenance garden. So something that produces some. I mean, I don't need a lot, but it's nice not to have to buy vegetables at the store in the summer. But also that doesn't need a lot of work. I don't like to do a lot of weeding or anything like that. So I'll show you what I've done. This is the second year or third year for the enclosed part, raised bed. First year for this area here. So I tilled it all up, put a bunch of mulch down. I had a load of mulch ordered this year and have been using it in several parts of the yard. And then I just bought these on Amazon. So you can see everything's pretty much done right now. So I had tomatoes and a little bit of lettuce in these, and the tomatoes did really well. There was lots of good tomatoes on there. There was lots of good lettuce. I might have had this one a little bit crowded. I have 2 in there, and I think you kind of got to keep it to 1 because they get quite large. The other problem was that I didn't have a cage on them, and they kind of fell over. So I think that I need to make sure I cage them if they're in there because it's a little less stable. I could probably also add more dirt next year. They were pretty full. It kind of compacted. The corn I planted really late. Obviously too late because that's as big as it got. So we got 0 cobs on it. I think if I would have planted it at the end of May, it would have been okay, but it was into the end of June, so that's just not enough time for it. And in the black bags, I had potatoes, which I have already harvested, so they are all just empty now. But that worked really well. I got a good potato harvest out of them. They were smaller potatoes, but again, I did plant them late, so that probably could have had something to do with it. So in here, amongst the weeds, I have started strawberries. So like, here is a strawberry here. And I've got 4 of them for about $2 at the end of the year from the grocery store. So I thought, whatever, $4, I can try it. And they've done really well. They've done crazy well. They even had strawberries on them this year. And I had marigolds planted around them. I did this around some of the fruit trees out in the back too because deer are supposed to really hate marigolds. So here's another one. And then here's another one. Obviously I need to do some weeding in here. And this one looks like something came in and had a little snack on it, but I think it'll be okay. It's got some new growth down in here till next year. Thistle is terrible here, but I'm sure it's terrible everywhere. So I think it was a good start. I definitely learned a lot, especially with the bags. Got to make sure there's less planted in them and make sure that the stuff is held up. Oh, they're still here. So right underneath here, you can see there's some little ladybugs hiding out in there. So all of the ladybugs are starting to find their place to hibernate for the winter, which is awesome because they eat a lot of gross bugs for me. So in here, I just have 3 foot wide by 12 feet and about 3 foot high all the way around with the door on it. So this keeps the deer out, which is super handy because they like to hide out in this part of the yard because the dogs can't get to them here. The dogs are on an electric fence, so they can't come in over this side. So the thing I learned about this one is that I planted way too much stuff in it. I had 1 million carrots. You buy a package from the store of seeds, and that is meant for a larger garden for sure than this is. But I bought my seeds from a local lady this year who sells them. I thought I would buy local and help her out, and I planted them all so that I didn't have any go to waste, and that was a big mistake. So I had a ton of peas, I had a ton of squash and cucumber, a ton of purple beans, but all of my carrots are like little baby carrots, which is fine. I love baby carrots, but I would have liked some bigger carrots also. So next year, I'm going to have to buy fewer seeds or only plant half. And maybe I can find somebody who also has a small garden that I can share them with. So like, for example, here are some of the carrots that I didn't bother taking in because they're just like less smaller than my thumb. So not worth it. I also have lots of debris left in here. I do not plan on cleaning this up before winter because there's lots of ladybugs that will use this as a wonderful spot to sleep and protection from the cold because it does get really freaking cold here in the winter. So yeah, that will be a future me problem. I will do that in the spring. I see my door could also use some maintenance because somebody has been ramming on it. And that's okay. That is a job for another day, another video. And I think that's pretty much it. We've got lots of trees growing back here that I don't care about. I don't particularly use this part anymore. This was all the old garden, so this used to be all tilled up. Again, planting in this earth is not great. It's really hard and it's super salty. So I do have a large rhubarb that grows over here. It's all done now for the year because it is getting into fall. So it grows right kind of in the middle of this tree. You can see these are all the like leftover rhubarb leaves. So it's doing really well. I guess it either doesn't care or the ground here is maybe fine. I also have a ton of chives. These are all chives growing in with this thistle. And they grow all over the place. They're like wild chives, which is fine because they smell delicious. And then on the other side of this little bluff, I do have another area that did used to be garden. Grass seems to grow pretty good here, so I don't know if the dirt is good, but I don't really have anything else to do over here. So I think for now, I'm just gonna let it stay grass and just keep mowing it. You can see I still have a lot of flood death that needs to be dealt with. So we've got quite a few trees here that are just dead, need to be cleaned up still, but it takes a lot of work and I have definitely been working on it a little bit all the time. It's just a lot to kind of get dealt with, but slowly and it will get done. So I think that is pretty much it. We'll walk back over to the house, say hello to the dogs because they are patiently waiting for me to come play with them. And I think we'll probably start on a couple of things that I need to get done before winter. I need to switch over to Starlink this summer. So I need to build a stand for the satellite to go on and various other things. that always need to be done. So I hope me for those things. Nix is excited from me and the puppies. I hope we will see you again and have a great day. Bye.